Hi, I'm Ben Lichtwellner, the founder of Virtual Leadership Programs, and this is how you create your feedback form. First time you create your feedback form, you get a page like this, right? It says basically create form. As usual, there's stuff at the top. If you want to ask your assistant any questions or coach any questions, you can click there or down here and get a pop-up as usual on all pages. So if you have any questions about the page or suggestions for feedback form questions, go ahead and ask your coach. Now, you're presented a 3-step process: create the form, request feedback, and then follow up. We're at step 1, creating the form. You can start off with any kind of form name. If it's your first time creating a form, I like to use the term baseline because it's your baseline feedback form. So I'm going to say 2025 January baseline feedback. You can give it a description. This is for your purposes only. So as you progress, you should be getting feedback more and more often. And so you might want to have some notes. This was after some negative feedback I got, or some really great feedback, anything like that. In this case, I'm going to say just my first form. Next is an important checkbox. You can make these feedback forms anonymous. However, it is an all or nothing situation because we can't let you have some people give anonymous feedback and others not. It gets very difficult and tricky to balance. How do we make sure it stays anonymous for those? So you get to choose. Do you want to allow anonymous feedback or not? If you choose to allow anonymous feedback, you check that box. What that means is a couple of things. Anybody who has the link that this system will create and send to the people you're requesting feedback from can provide feedback. In other words, that person could pass it off to somebody else and they can use that link to give feedback on you. It's just a reality. If we're going to make it anonymous, it has to be truly anonymous. We have to do our very best to keep it anonymous. It also means that the email notifications to those individuals you are sending requests for feedback from will be randomized. It will take a while for those emails to send. If you don't check that box and you're not allowing anonymous feedback, the requests are going to go out immediately. But don't be surprised if you check anonymous and people are like, oh, you sent me a request, I didn't hear anything, because it'll take a little while for the system to send it intentionally to try and keep it anonymous. I'm going to leave this as anonymous is not permitted. Hopefully you have a high trust organization where anonymity, you know what I mean, is not necessary. But we do recognize that in many organizations it's necessary to get good quality feedback. Then you come down and you have a long list of best practice questions. These have been studied by experts who are far smarter than I am, who said, hey, these are the best sort of questions to ask, right? So you can also filter them by model. Are you talking individual contributor or people leader? We're looking at people leadership. And then you can see it checks them all by default once you start filtering. By default, they are unchecked. As soon as you start filtering, it checks all the questions, meaning they will by default be added to your feedback form. Then you can go by category. Mine's a baseline. So I'm going to start off with focusing on general and leadership, because it's a baseline assessment. You can see you can focus more on communication, efficiency, different areas there. And I'm going to go through and pick some of these default best practice questions. All right, let's see here. They are effective at problem solving. It's not really what I'm looking to get at a baseline assessment. They work in a respect. That's good to know. They are responsive to needs and questions. Good. They meet deadlines. Yeah, that's important, but that's not really what I'm looking to get at right now. They respond well to pressure. Yeah. They bring innovative ideas to challenging. I'm not too worried about the innovative ideas right now for a baseline assessment. They provide solutions to. It's not about problem solving. They demonstrate leadership almost as a leadership assessment. I want to keep that in there. They take accountability for the work for the team, both good and bad. Yeah. Peers and members of other teams. It's interesting. I want to know that, but I'm going to worry about that in a future assessment. They drive for results without running over others. Yeah. They carry out work without complaint. That's not really a sort of thing. So let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a good starting point. For a baseline assessment, we recommend 10 or fewer questions. Your mileage may vary. Your HR department may give you different guidance. That's totally fine. But you want to keep it relatively within reason so people are encouraged to feedback. If they get 100 questions, people are less likely to respond. So I've picked my questions, but before I move on, also note you can click here to create custom questions. So if you want to do your own questions instead of best practice, our default questions, that's fine too. And I'll go through that. If you click that link, there'll be a how-to video on that page. Once we've chosen our questions, you can click Save Questions and Create Form in either spot. And that is how you create your feedback form.